everyone in the government, whether they were from the socialist left in Mapam, the ultra-Orthodox, Labour, of course, that was the dominant power, but also Likud becomes now an important political power in Israel. They all agree that the West Bank and the Gaza Strip would have to be part of Israel. The question is how you do it. Yeah. And this is the debate. So the debate was from 67 onwards was tactical on how to keep the territories, not whether to keep the territories. And I was surprised how openly they talk in the cabinet about the peace process as one of the best means of keeping the territories. Because
and this was in the 60s.
In June 67, the first few days after the occupation, especially the 18th, the 19th, the 20th of June, there were long debates in the cabinet about that. And actually, you know, you read later on Danny Strauss and other people who sort of explain that what is important about the peace process is the process itself. Right. It wasn't born, Dennis Ross did not invent it. It was born there. And I think not one Israeli government deviated from this idea that you have to be strategically savvy with how you do it. But of course, there's no question of going back to what Abba even called the Auschwitz borders.
Right.
And the whole book says that they developed two versions of a prison. That's why I call it the biggest prison. Right. There was the kind of open prison model, which says that if the Palestinians accept our idea that we control the space, but we don't have to control the people, they can live in an open prison, which gives them some sort of privileges, like working outside the prison, running their own life in the prison.
Maybe East Jerusalem would be.
Yeah, but also, you know, even Ramallah, or these densely, what Yigal Allon called the densely populated Palestinian areas. And then there is the maximum security prison, when the Palestinians are being punished for not accepting the open prison. Right. And you can see how they try to work out two things. One is how to convince the world that the open prison model is actually a peace process, reconciliation, final end to the conflict, and how they try to convince the Palestinians that they have a lot to lose if they would replace the open prison with a maximum security prison. And I think what happens today is that they are moving to a different model, which is like, let's just make all of it Israel and police the Palestinians wherever they are with mini prisons everywhere. I don't think there's going to be, the biggest prison will remain Gaza. But I think the rest of the West Bank, the Galilee, if they can do it, hopefully we will be able to challenge it. But the idea is to have these little autonomous prisons without territorial continuity.
Without Palestinian nationality.
Without Palestinian nationality, and somehow have a way of relaxing the oppression, if you can, with economic prosperity. I mean, of course, there's no reality, there's nothing grounded in reality the way they think about the future.
Right.
But they have the power to continue the model on the ground itself.
Let me ask you in closing, I mean, going forward, this sounds to me like the plan that's being offered by the Jewish Home Party, which is sort of the right-wing party of the settlers, Naftali Bennett, and it's a rising force in Israeli society. Right. To what extent is, Netanyahu and mainstream Likud moving towards this kind of one-state apartheid reality where they'll formalize Israel usurping or annexing much of the West Bank? And to what extent do you think Washington will accept it? Because we've seen mixed signals from Trump. On the one hand, you have David Friedman, the ambassador, who's in with the Beit El settlers, obviously on board with this kind of plan. And then you see Jason Greenblatt going over, and he's more on board with the all process and no peace kind of tactic that you just described. So where are we headed?
Well, I think even the Israeli electorate, on a certain level, thinks both options are fine in a way. That's why I'll tell you what is my vision for the future. I don't think Netanyahu will be there forever. That's very clear. And you're right. One of the alternatives is the Jewish Home and Naftali Bennett or people like him taking Israel into this path in which you don't play the charades anymore and you just openly talk about a one state that is a one apartheid state and you wait to see every moment, every juncture, to see how the world reacts, and you slow down the process according to the international community reaction and according to developments around you.
Yeah.
And then you have Yair Lapid, who has even more, he's now more popular in the polls than Netanyahu, who is a bit kind of an old-timer Zionist in a way, who will say the status quo is fine. I mean, why should we change it? We can maintain the status quo forever. We need to continue to talk about the peace and the process. And he may convince, whether it's Trump or someone else, that actually the old American hollow talk about the process that everybody knew had no influence on the reality on the ground is still the best model for everyone concerned. And maybe there will be a third Palestinian intifada, there will be this Israeli reaction. I'm talking from their perspective, not my perspective.
Right.
We have the military power to quell it.
Right.
It's actually quite good for the army to be involved in such operations against Gaza or against the Lebanon or against. After all,
seems like they're moving towards the latter at this point.
They do because the military otherwise is idle, and there is a sense that the military will not be able. And the DNA of the military has long been to be a big police force.
Yeah.
The elite units of Israel have not done any supposedly daring operations of the kind that made Hollywood films like Entebbe, or raiding on an Egyptian radar, or even killing PLO leaders in Lebanon.
They go kill some Turkish activists.
Exactly, and they're killing civilians. So the elite units kill civilians as part of the policing of the 6 million Palestinians within the new one state that they have created. So they have to be trained and kept alive in this kind of active role. And the big question is not, will there be an internal Jewish Israeli repugnance against it? No, there won't be. I can assure you that the society is too indoctrinated to be repulsed by this. The big question is really the international community. Will it, with the facts unfolding again and again, and the picture becomes clearer by the day, would they continue to be blind intentionally?
And we've seen the international community issue 2 major reports, which amounted to kind of saying that water is wet and the sky is blue, which is first, Zionism is racism and Israel's an apartheid state. Both were retracted almost immediately.
Yeah. The messengers were killed, not the message.
The messengers were killed, but not the message. But when you kill the messenger, you can't embrace the recommendations and formalize them into any kind of legal repercussions or enforcement mechanism. So,
I agree, but I think that the messengers are growing in numbers, and it's far more diversified. The people who are now willing to say these things come from different places where they haven't come before. I'm not trying to draw a too optimistic picture, but I think the Israelis are beginning to lose it in their ability to use timidity, bribery, and intimidation to kill the messengers. Whenever it also has to do with the cyberspace. We are in it.
Well, you're
now.
still alive.
I'm still alive, and even if I'm not alive, there are other people who would do this. We're not loners. We're not the only ones. Neither you nor I. It is there. It's already there in the cyber highway, an information highway. It is there, and they will not be able to stop it. Unfortunately, of course, while we are waiting for this to have tangible impact on the ground, the clock of destruction is faster and continues. And I think that's why we all support the BDS, because we would like to see a more concentrated reaction, even if we're not sure where we are going to.
Right.
We want to voice our objection to the oppression as it happens on the ground on a daily basis. Yeah.